Tonight, in the retrospective Generation Q, In the Life Goes Back to School.
I had to go to the emergency room, and it turns out that I had a fractured nose and a couple chipped teeth.
To a new kind of haunted house.
Please, Steve, give your life to Jesus.
And behind the scenes of the youth culture.
I became editor-in-chief of Vibe when I was 31, and I'm still working on the Millionaire part.
All this and more on America's gay and lesbian news magazine, In the Life.
It works for me. In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Ford Foundation, the Pride Foundation, the Lily Auchincloss Foundation, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.
Welcome to In the Life. I'm Staceyann. In tonight's retrospective Generation Q, America's gay and lesbian news magazine investigates the world of our lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, transgendered youth and their allies. According to Flagg, 10 years ago, the average coming out age in America was 23. Today, it is anywhere from 13 to 16. Meaning the majority of queer youth are now navigating their teens, the coming out process, and their secondary education at the same time. This has moved the battle for safety and the struggle for equal rights into the youth culture, though that's hardly where the adult gay community meant it to go. And it has landed LGBTQ teens and their allies at the forefront of a movement.
It's okay to be who you are and not to take any of this harassment and abuse from others.
On the cutting edge of a culture.
Emil's got a very honest approach that allows him to be critical, to make choices that are uncomfortable, and to make artists uncomfortable when necessary.
And in the line of fire.
It's a shame that you have to walk down the street not knowing what's going to happen to us.
Though racism still taints our culture, it's no longer legally permissible. You can't throw someone out of the Boy Scouts for being Latino or get away with using the N-word as an insult in front of the principal. But the US Supreme Court has upheld the Boy Scouts' right to discriminate against gay kids. And recent studies have produced a number of statistics indicating that the same mentality has trickled down into the schools. Every 7 minutes, a student is bullied. 85% of the time, no one intervenes. And according to the National Institute of Mental Health, LGBTQ youth and those who are perceived to be LGBT are the most likely targets.
I'd get paper thrown at me or notes in the hallway that just said fag. I'd hear kids call me faggot or, oh, here comes gay Scott. I really just didn't want to get up and start my day because I know that it was already ruined.
Bullying's been with us since the beginning of time, and for that reason, people tend to minimize bullying, to say, well, kids will grow out of it, everybody experiences it, etc. In fact, bullying is incredibly destructive.
Do you have any memory of being bullied?
Maybe like pushed into a fence, being surrounded by a whole bunch of guys.
I used to have bruises on my arms from this pastor's son.
What would he do to you?
He would just be like, I'm gonna pound you. I wouldn't want to go to school because I was so afraid of what was gonna be happening when I got there, and it was really terrifying.
Bullying can take a lot of different forms. There's harassment, verbal harassment.
Fucking faggot! A fairy. Butterfingers.
Sissy boy.
There's a lot of physical bullying that goes on.
One day in the pool, he popped me in the face.
All four jumped out, two of them with 2x4s, and they came after us, ready to kill us.
Forcibly removing my underwear while I was still wearing it.
Every month, 160,000 kids skip school because they don't feel safe there. Gay and lesbian students are more likely to be threatened, more likely to be physically harassed, and a fairly large percentage have reported that they've been beaten to the point of needing medical attention. When you are continually harassed, that takes up all of your mental space and attention. It's very difficult when you're trying just to survive throughout the school day to focus on learning. So these kids are not only being physically threatened, emotionally harassed, but they're also missing their education.
He had kept on harassing me like all year long. So he came over and just said to me, "Hey, you effing faggot, you enjoying your pudding, sweetie?" I got to the point where I was so angry at him, I just threw the pudding on his brand new shirt. Him and 3 of his friends started just beating the crap out of me and throwing me on the top of a table and just beating me until I was on the ground. There were 650 kids around just staring and watching a fight, not doing anything. And so a big crowd gathered up around me and I started bleeding and everything, and they rushed me into the nurse's office. And it turns out that I had a fractured nose and a couple chipped teeth.
The adults in the school environment often don't get involved. They don't step in to call harassment what it is when they see it.
The school tried to suspend me for a day for throwing pudding at this kid who just beat me up and constantly harassed me. Meanwhile, they were not keeping documents on this kid harassing me or hurting me.
And the gay kids who we interviewed said that 4 out of 5 of those kids said that they did not have even one supportive adult in their school.
The following day, I went and gave my taped statement to the police officer, and he told me that all this news and media and stuff were coming to the police station. And he said basically they are going to find a way to get in touch with you, so be aware and keep your mouth closed. Well, I told my mom that I was tired of keeping my mouth closed. Thursday, I was handing out papers to advertise a protest for that Monday, and a couple of them got to the principal. And he called me in during my lunch period, and I said, well, I'm a diabetic, I have to eat lunch. And he said if I left his office that I would be suspended, because he didn't like the fact that there was all this media going around the school already now. As soon as I walked out of the principal's office, he told me I was suspended for 10 days. And these other 3 kids that beat me up got suspended 5 to 7 days at the time.
Most of the kids we interviewed didn't think that anti-gay bullying was appropriate, felt that it wasn't fair, that people shouldn't be treated badly, but only 5% of those kids were verbal about that in their school environment.
Monday came around, so I went right across the street from the school, and about 50 people came total throughout the entire day.
If the adults in their lives, primarily parents but also teachers and others, were more vocal about why bullying is inappropriate, we think these kids would be more encouraged to stand up against it themselves and also create an environment where bullying's not a cool thing to do.
I have a bunch more of these. I just don't know where they are right now, but this is the first one that I put in the book. It was from one of the kids that beat me up. They had to write me a letter of apology, and it says, Scott, I'm sorry for doing what I did. It was wrong, and next year, don't feel threatened because nothing will happen. It's over. And then he signed his name. Now they actually call down the students. This kid that was picking on me, the football star, he got called down while he was in the same class with me, so I know that they talked to him, and he was gone out of the classroom for a long time. So that's a good sign, and since then, the kid hasn't said anything to me. And what surprises me is after all this finally blew over, there must be 10 kids that I know that came up to me and said, you know, I'm gay, I'm bi, I am a lesbian, and it completely shocked me. I don't look at it as a win-lose situation. I look at it as I told them that I'm not putting up with this. And I went to the extreme to do it too, but I had to, otherwise it wasn't gonna stop.
Living every day sad in your heart that you can't be who you want to be. I can't do it anymore. I'm a person, and this is who I am. So today I decided to come out and let everyone know I was gay. And I thought that I'd go about it this way, showing everybody the picture of my girlfriend and I and leaving it out on my desk. And if they ask me who it is, I'm gonna tell them. I'm Lisa, and I guess I'm out now.
Not all bullies lurk in the schoolyard. In the fall of 2002, then 13-year-old Thomas McLaughlin became the target of his teachers in Little Rock, Arkansas.
And she calls me abnormal, unnatural, and that she's gonna change me if I don't change myself.
It all started when Thomas, then 13, was asked by another boy passing in the hall if he was gay.
I'm like, well, if I am, I am. If I'm not, I'm not, you know? It's none of your business. And that's what the teacher overheard. And he said it was kind of inappropriate for school. And so he told the assistant principal, I guess, after 5th period, and she got me out of 7th period, took me out in the hall and asked if it was true, and I said, yeah. And then she asked if my parents knew. I said no, and she's like, well, you have to figure out what you're gonna say to them by 3:40 this afternoon because I'm gonna tell them.
That afternoon, Thomas's mom, Delia McLaughlin, got a phone call at work from the school counselor.
I remember her saying that he was having feelings for other males. I mean, she didn't just come out and say he's gay.
Even though this was news to Miss McLaughlin, she didn't think it was appropriate for the school to be telling her.
He had to be petrified, you know, like he had to wonder what's going to happen when I get home. Are my parents going to kick me out or what?
Those fears would prove to be unfounded.
We sat down and we talked about it and assured him that we loved him anyway, and it didn't matter to us if he was gay or straight or purple or green or whatever. You know, he's our kid. We love him.
His teachers weren't as understanding, including the one who first overheard him.
He gave me a 4-page note how I was going to go to hell or whatever if I didn't change my ways, and had a whole bunch of scriptures on it. I don't have it anymore. I wish I did. I threw it away.
According to Thomas, things were bearable until the following year when the 9th grade assistant principal also felt compelled to preach to him.
So he pulls out his Bible. He tells me to come by his desk, and he opens it up. He wants me to read something. So I'm reading it, and just looking at it, you know, like I'm reading it to myself. So he tells me to read it out loud so he can hear me and help me with stuff I don't understand.
Thomas knew that this religious instruction was inappropriate in a public school. But when he complained, he was suspended for 2 days.
We're Christians. We do go to church, and we do believe in God.
In fact, Thomas sings in his church choir and has gotten support from his pastor.
I kind of thought him being a minister and all, he'd be against it. But he's not. He's pretty cool. He is cool, not pretty cool. He is cool.
Thomas was also surprised by the reactions of his fellow students.
The kids are fine. It's just the teachers that are stupid. It's like they've taken on different roles. The administrators act like the kids, and the kids act like the administrators should be acting.
Thomas was tolerating the situation well, until one teacher disciplined him in front of his friends.
She's like, nobody cares that you're gay, Thomas. Don't you understand that? You're just trying to get attention. The whole class, or almost the whole class, hears this. And they're looking, and she screams at him to get out of the classroom. She yells at me so bad that when I get out of that classroom, I cry.
It's just made him have so many doubts and questions and fears, and, you know, I mean, it's just really done a number on him.
Thomas continued to talk about his punishments, and the school threatened to expel him.
That was just it. I'd had enough, and I sat down one Saturday afternoon and composed my letter to the ACLU.
The American Civil Liberties Union took up Thomas's case, filing a lawsuit against the school district for violating his right to free speech and freedom of religion by preaching to him and forcing him to read the Bible.
I think Thomas's story is sadly typical for queer youth in the state.
Eric Reese is the executive director of Arkansas Equality, an organization that fights for LGBT rights and conducts support groups for queer and questioning youth.
Just for seeing Thomas doing that energizes me. You know, energizes others to say, hey, it's okay to be who you are and not to take any of this harassment and abuse from others.
I want them to realize, you know, what their responsibilities are towards our children, and to realize that we're all equal. If you don't believe the way I believe, that's okay. You're still a person. You're still a human. and I have to treat you with respect.
Thomas and the ACLU settled his suit when the school agreed to policy changes that protect gay and lesbian students.
There's a lot of kids there, but just remember, if they treat those kids the way they've treated me, we can always come back with another suit.
Throwing my daughter away just was not an option. I love her. Why did it take me a few weeks to do something that I'd see other parents struggling with for a lifetime? Because I had no choice. The moment she told me she was gay, I knew at that very moment her job was done. The work now was for me to do. Don't stop loving, and don't stop communicating.
For over a decade, the youth in the Dallas, Texas area have been the focus of one church's inventive new crusade to save souls. In this month's Reel to Reel, In the Life follows filmmaker George Ratliff behind the scenes of his documentary, Hell House.
This is Steve. He thought his homosexual lifestyle was everything a real man could want. Please, Steve, give your life to Jesus.
Since you rejected my son, you have no place in my kingdom. Depart from me. I do not know you.
Hell is a place of everlasting torment.
Just constant agony and burning.
Hell House started with this huge Pentecostal church outside of Dallas, Trinity Assembly of God in Cedar Hill, Texas. Every Halloween, they put on an enormous haunted house where the object is to scare kids into Christianity. The whole church gets involved, and they build this huge haunted house from scratch. And it's not ghouls and goblins, it's what they consider contemporary sin.
And so what are our themes that we deal with in Hell House? We deal with suicide, we deal with abortion, we deal with drugs.
There's a Columbine school shooting scene, there's a kid dying of AIDS scene, in the hospital scene. In every scene, the object is someone dies sinning. In the end, you're supposed to be afraid that you're going to go to hell too, and they basically try to scare you into joining the church. Hell House is basically a fire and brimstone sermon, but a high-tech version of it. They write and cast every scene.
Heather talked about homosexuality, dealing with a gay bar.
There's a monitor room where they watch all the scenes on different monitors, and it's a huge production.
Oscar, open that door and get started now.
Yep, now they go into heaven. That was quick, good. Quick coffin trip there.
And it's a big moneymaker, too.
Sure, cheese nachos, please.
Pentecostals are the entertainers, and they've always been great at putting on a show. All the great televangelists are Pentecostal.
If you want to try out for a new scene, just come up here and grab the scene, go home, practice it, and come back.
When I was a kid, my uncle did things to me that changed my life. He said I was born that way.
How could you do this to me? What kind of God are you?
Very excited about it. They all aspire to be a suicide boy or abortion girl.
The abortion girl, I got it. I did it. God help me.
You see that they really have fun because it's the one time of the year that they get to basically sin, or at least act like they're sinning.
Did you have fun tonight? What kind of a God are you?
They get to act like they're having sex. They get to act like, they're doing all these great things. And in the end, they're doing God's work. So it's a great time had by all of them. This church started Hell House in 1990, and it's grown every year. And now they have around 15,000 people go through every year. And 1 out of 5 people who go through there actually convert or reconvert,
There are people in the next room waiting to pray with you, should you walk to the door.
Knowing the fact that when we die, we can go to heaven to be with Jesus. It's so awesome.
The regular kids that have been in a bubble of this church their entire lives. They've been born and raised within it. They go to a Christian school. You know, everything is slanted toward Christian. It's really isolating. The church, for example, likes the film because for them it's like a home movie.
We're competing against the darkness for souls that are lost, that he's trying to send to hell, and we're trying to be a partner with God to bring them into eternal life.
He said I was born that way, and I believed the lie. AIDS, you fool!
These are not violent people. If they were to meet a gay person, they would, you know, ostensibly love the person, hate the sin. But it just doesn't work that way all the time.
I think hell is everybody's own experience.
In the film, there's, you know, 4 kids who were furious about what was going on.
Who's to say if you're gay, you're gonna go to hell or heaven?
What does the Bible say about homosexuality?
What's wrong with being gay? Not just I was gay, I was offended by that.
Back up.
They are very anti-gay. They think that people who are gay were duped into it and that it's just a psychological mistake that can be corrected. It was really, you know, sad, especially with these kids, because some of the kids within Hell House and in the school were obviously gay. It was very important to be objective and to present this in an even-handed way, simply because this, unfortunately, is America. 46% of America considers themselves fundamentalist.
We are the salt, we are the light, and we are here to infiltrate the culture.
Finally, there's a verite documentary that the gay and lesbian community can point to and say, see, I told you so. This is the way middle America treats us. This is the way the fundamentalist Christian America believes.
No! Please! Help me! No! No!
I'm Beth Anthony.
I'm Wilson Cruz.
I'm Patricia Clarkson.
I'm Alex Sanchez.
I'm Margaret Gomez.
I'm Norman Corpy.
I'm Peter Gallagher, and you're watching
America's Gay and Lesbian.
Gay and Lesbian News Magazine.
In the Life.
In the Life. In the Life.
In the Life.
In the Life.
Still to come on In the Life.
I lived in foster care through high school and know how really important it is for adults to step up.
All the way around, these kids are invisible and they're dying.
I don't care what you believe or what church you attend or how religion-oriented your private life is. Keep it out of my government.
The 2003 murder of 15-year-old Sakia Gunn demonstrated that the violence underlying the bullying epidemic is not confined to our schools. Because the American public reacted with universal horror to the killing of Matthew Shepard in 1998, many believe that anti-LGBT hate crimes have been diffused. But they still occur with the same regularity 6 years later, and they tend to be crimes against youth, often, but not in Sakia's case, perpetrated by youth.
In May 2003, 15-year-old Sakia Gunn was brutally stabbed to death at a bus stop in Newark, New Jersey. The murder galvanized the local LGBT community. Tonight, In the Life looks at a call for change and one community's effort to create it.
A car pulled up and was trying to talk to the girls, telling them to come here, and none of the girls went. So they was telling them, we gay. So the guy got out the car, telling them, why you over here with these fags? They fags. The guy was 29 years old, 5'9", 210 pounds. Anybody in their right mind can see that these were children. When he put the knife to her neck, she swung at him and got him off of her. Then they went to run again, and he grabbed her, and he just stabbed her in the chest. Valencia said, as she was looking at her in the car and kept saying, don't go to sleep, don't go to sleep. She said her eyes rolled in the back of her head.
When Sakia died in my arms, I immediately went to like a stage of shock. Like, I couldn't believe it.
When Valencia lost Sakia,
She went to a very traumatic stage. It was like she was a time bomb getting ready to explode. She really didn't know what to do.
There was so many people in 1 year that I have known that lives have been taken because of something so dumb, something that it shouldn't even matter.
You know, this happens so often here in Newark. It happens so often in the black community. Young black kids get killed every day, all day, every day, any time of day. So I think many of us have become desensitized to the horror of having a young person's life ended that way.
But veteran activist Laquetta Nelson was so compelled by Sakia's murder that she came out of retirement, founding an organization to do something about it.
The Newark Pride Alliance Incorporated came about as a result of the murder of Sakia Gunn in order to address the issues that were affecting the gay and lesbian community with special emphasis on the youth.
Nelson is focused on achieving a long-sought youth center which would provide a safe place for kids like Valencia to go.
Part of what led up to these young people's deaths is that they've had to go places to neighborhoods and to communities far afield from their home to find places where they felt safe.
All that hatred and all that violence, we don't bring it to New York, especially to the village. You don't bring it there. You leave all that stuff wherever you came from. There you could walk down the street all types of night. I mean, you're still gonna be careful, but you really don't have to worry about anyone coming to get you or saying something to you.
In Jersey, we really don't have anywhere to go to be freely with our sexuality. So we come out here to be around people like us.
Rather than seeing this as a national problem that deserves news media attention, this has been treated, again, as a local crime problem, as a problem that perhaps only the gay media should be concerned about, and the gay and lesbian media has not, as far as I can ascertain, really paid attention to those specific concerns of gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender youth of color. So all the way around, these kids are invisible and they're dying.
As everyone knows, Sakia was a real close friend of mine. I'm happy to see that people out here fighting against biased crimes. It's a shame that you have to walk down the street not knowing what's going to happen to us.
A very important part of the work that the Newark Pride Alliance has before it, and that's to educate the people about the lives of gay and lesbian people and gay and lesbian children, and how homophobia and hate crimes and name-calling and beating up and things like that, how it affects the children and the people that these acts are directed at, as well as how these acts affect the community as a whole.
The community was further traumatized in the aftermath of Sakia's murder.
After she died, there was a statement that the principal had made, when you live a certain lifestyle, things like this deserve to happen to you. But I didn't hear him say that, so I don't know the truth.
In spite of the alleged attitude of their principal, over 2,000 students attended Sakia's memorial.
In the gay community, we all one family. Anyone fell behind, the other one picks them up to make sure we're right on the same track. There's no one going to be left behind, ever.
The emotion of the day captured almost everyone, including Mayor Sharp James, who attended the services and promised full support to the community center.
He came to the funeral, and that's when he promised us. He said, well, he'll help us get a center. Anything we wanted, he'll help us get it. But ever since that day, you can't even get him on the phone.
After initially agreeing to be interviewed for this story, the mayor's office later declined.
I think the Newark community has failed the gay and lesbian community, not only just the youth, but the adults too, because this has been an ongoing problem for a long time. By now, Newark should have some type of cultural center for the children. It's homophobic.
This issue about a community center is not a new issue. It's something that we've been fighting for many years, but it's taken Sakia's murder to bring the light to these people. Oh, there is a problem there with the young gay, African-American gay and lesbian youth. No, it's not new. This has been going on for a long time.
You would have children standing off the streets wanting to come there to play basketball, wanting to come there to read a book, wanting to come there just to sit there and hang out with their friends because they can't hang out in front of their house because they got to worry about a drive-by. It would actually have people come there because they want to do something with their lives.
I don't think that young people today really have a sense that they can make the world better, and they don't really have a sense of what better means. I think they're so confused and so overwhelmed.
In an effort to make Newark a safer place, the Newark Pride Alliance is working in concert with groups like Flagg to get these issues out of the closet.
Thank you. Although my daughter's physical is not here, it's people like you and everybody that support me that keeps her alive with me. And I thank everything that everybody's helping me do. Thank you. I deeply want the world to know that I am trying to get this center, that my daughter did not die in vain, something that's going to be done about this.
There needs to be a paradigm shift in this state as well as this country with respect to how people in the general public see gay and lesbian people. An image has been implanted in their minds since time immemorial of us being unclean, unwholesome, wicked, unworthy of life.
People fear the unknown. And what people fear, they tend to hate. But if you understand something, you will learn not to fear it. You will learn not to hate it. You will learn probably even to love it or like it.
All those young lesbians and all those young kids that we hugged and tried to console at Sakia's funeral, we promised them that we were going to do something to make things better for them. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get them a community center so that they can go there and they can gather and feel safe. Because that community center is going to be a place where they can come and not fear that they're going to be hurt in any kind of way.
I certainly never thought I would be a public speaker, nor did I want to be out front. I'm basically a shy, quiet, reserved person unless you make me angry. So I guess I'm angry. I speak and travel and meet people who feel like I represent the mom they have or the mom they wish they had who loves their children unconditionally. In the last 5 years since I started speaking to organizations and colleges, the audiences have changed. They are braver in the questions that they ask. They are more aggressive in the way they participate as an audience. They understand who they are so much younger than my generation did. They are the generation who just so gets who they are. This is Judy Shepard, and you're watching In the Life.
There are roughly 1.3 million homeless youth in America, and it's estimated that between 20 and 40% identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgendered. And the streets, offering little more than violence and sexual exploitation, are hard to escape. But the LGBT community in Minneapolis, Minnesota, is blazing the trail to a possible solution.
Many people run away from their homes and then run to metro areas and they end up homeless.
My mom had kicked me out, so I basically just lived in my car.
I was in a studio with about 4 other people, sleeping on the floor.
Anywhere would be better than where I was living in Wisconsin. It was just horrible.
LGBT youth are kicked out, drop out of school, end up in foster care, all those things 10 times more often than any other youth. So there's a higher rate of LGBT youth that are on the streets.
We started conversations about why are queer youth overrepresented in the homeless youth population? What can the community do about it? There's so many of us in the community who have extra bedrooms and would probably be willing to have somebody move in. Let's ask the community if they're willing to do that.
The result was Host Homes, a grassroots program that links homeless LGBT youth with welcoming LGBT homes.
When I came out at 16, I got it's a phase, you'll grow out of it, and my mother realized it wasn't a phase. She told me that I needed to make up my mind what I wanted to do because I couldn't live in Fargo. That would be too much of an embarrassment for my parents. I mean, I could have very easily ended up being one of those kids on the street. So that's why I wanted to get involved.
Let's say something about the fact that Stephen.
The mission is to provide safe spaces for homeless youth. A lot of homeless youth were queer, and they were out on the streets, and they weren't using the shelters because they weren't safe places to be. The shelters that are out there tend to be very scary in the sense that they're not safe.
I had to leave because some of the staff seemed shady towards me, you know. There's a lot of things going on that I knew about that I couldn't prove, so I had to get out of there.
The staff sometimes have run-ins, you know, with the youth and, well, you know, sleep with youth or whatever. You know, it's not a good atmosphere to be in. So it sort of perpetuates you being on the street because you don't want to be in a shelter. You know, and you figure, oh, I'm better off on my own. I think that a lot of youth are aging out of the system, and with how the foster care system is set up, when you turn 18, you're pretty much sometimes turned out on your own.
I started coming to the realization that I'm trans. I started telling people, and I got a lot of negative reactions, and I didn't have any support whatsoever in Wisconsin. So I moved, and it was just horrible. I felt so alone.
My mom had kicked me out. She was sort of embarrassed of me because I had shaved my head and she was having issues with me being a gay teenager. I basically just lived in my car.
A lot of learning happens if you think back to when you were 18, 19, 20, and 21. You know, that huge differences happen in your life. And without having a support system set up, there's no way that you're gonna succeed. I was creating this program that would mostly serve this population that had come out of the foster care system. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't the same thing.
Hosts don't get any financial compensation like foster homes do. The youth are there because the hosts really genuinely wanted to open up their home and provide a safe space for them to live.
And foster care, they place you or they send you, you're gonna be with this family until you can settle things or until you're 18, and then you're on your own.
They actually get to read through the host's entire applications. They get to interview the host.
His first question was, is there a curfew? Big question for a 18-year-old.
Andy and Kim's I absolutely love going to because they always feed me.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We talk about how things are going. If we need to nag Stephen on something, sometimes we do it then.
Here's another one.
When I first met them, we had a dinner and I felt safe enough. You know, because at the time I had just moved from Wisconsin because I had come out as transsexual and a lot of people weren't okay with it. And so I was kind of feeling burned, I feel extreme fear of rejection. And just the fact that I felt okay to tell them right when I first met them that I'd support from you guys, helping me deal with, my growth. Just that foundation of safety. I mean, they feed me, so, and that's a bonus too.
Come on, toughen up. Before I entered this program, I didn't have any support system, and I was struggling with my sexuality, and being homeless. And so you compile all of those things, and it leaves you feeling pretty hopeless. If I hadn't moved in with them, I don't know where I would be right now. The GLBT Host Home program is the only program of its like across the country. It is a community response to a community need.
And I think it's also important because it gives the GLBTQ adult community an opportunity to really be a part of the solution.
There's some pieces of my own personal history around the importance of family and having significant adults step up. I lived in foster care through high school and know how really important it is for adults to step up.
Holly and Omar are both living independently now and are each pursuing careers that focus on education.
Right now, I'm trying to sort of give back my time. Hopefully can get this position with the Y. I'm working with after school, like youth, and working with some of the younger kids in me, like kindergarten to junior high.
What I want to do is use the power that film has to make change. Open people's minds a little bit about some of the issues that they don't necessarily think about every day.
I've been homeless for about a year and a half.
And we were on the streets together for about 3 months.
This house was built 1905. You turn on the heat, it goes right out. Holly still has a key to the house. I like knowing that she thinks of this as home-based.
I do plan on being a part of Michelle and Jill's lives, you know, for a long time, as long as they'll let me do laundry.
We have homeless youth or queer. We have adult queers with extra bedrooms. At its most simple level, it's beautiful. Why can't we have this in every community?
In 1993, the year after In the Life first aired, a group of approximately 1,000 gay, lesbian, and straight high school students from Massachusetts went to the state capitol to demonstrate and to lobby on behalf of legislation that bans discrimination against gay and lesbian students. The legislation was passed that year, making Massachusetts the first U.S. state to protect its students from discrimination based upon their sexual orientation.
In the 1990s, Emil Wilbekin became one of the most powerful people in the hip-hop industry. As editor-in-chief of Vibe magazine, he educated the world about urban music. And as an out gay man, he challenged the homophobia that is often considered endemic to rap and hip-hop.
Turn my headphones on. It's about the superstars of urban music.
He wants to tell the stories that exist behind hip-hop.
The drama, the politics, sexual identity.
Some people feel like being gay is a challenge.
Hip-hop music has definitely been known to be homophobic.
That's probably why people in the hip-hop community are not open about it.
There are also all these beautiful, positive things about hip-hop.
All I need is one mic. Quincy came up with the idea for an urban music and culture magazine that would be multicultural, not just about music, but about the arts and film and politics. And it would be young, and it would be beautiful, and it would be cutting edge. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is a very, big urban city, but it's also very conservative. I always felt like something was different or unique about me. I had won awards for art shows in kindergarten, and I won my first writing essay contest in the 3rd grade. So there were always these things that kind of set me apart. I remember wanting to have my own magazine, and my goal in my head was to be the editor-in-chief of my own magazine by the time I was 30 and to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. So I became editor-in-chief of Vibe when I was 31, and I'm still working on the millionaire part. But, so you know how in the beginning of the Mary Tyler Moore show, she's in Minneapolis and she throws her hat in the air? That's how I felt when I came to New York. I was really, really excited. I felt like I was finally home. In the early 90s, when I was working at Metropolitan Home, I was introduced to a couple of editors from other magazines who happened to be gay. And they very much encouraged me to come out and to be honest with myself and my friends and my family as to who I was. I remember being a nervous wreck and like butterflies in my stomach and my hands sweating all day. And I called home and I remember just kind of saying, like, Mom and Dad, I'm gay. And my mother just started crying and screaming and saying, no, 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 please, Lord, no. And my father said that he kind of had an idea, which was kind of surprising to me. Even though the time was very difficult with my family and it was very, emotionally just hard, I definitely felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders by being honest with them. When I started at Vibe magazine in '92, I was associate editor.
He's held every single position at the magazine, whether it's taking care of the next section, which is our new talent section, fashion director, everything.
When I was considering if I would go after the Vibe editor-in-chief job, I definitely in my head thought about the homophobia in hip-hop and the misogyny and the perceived small-mindedness of the hip-hop community. But then I also thought about the fact that I would have the power to change those perceptions and open up people's eyes. As editor-in-chief of a magazine, you are the face of the magazine, so you have to represent the magazine. You have to come up with the content with your team of editors, making sure that the magazine is balanced and fair, making sure that the magazine sells on newsstands.
Emil's got a very calm attitude and a very honest kind of approach that allows him to be critical, to make choices that are uncomfortable, and to make artists uncomfortable when necessary, to tell the truth, to keep his integrity, and there's a tremendous amount of respect for him in our industry.
There was a rapper who was playing his album for us for consideration for a cover. And one of the songs came on, and I'm there with my music editor and one of my writers. And the song is like faggot and beat you down and kill the faggots and da-da-da-da-da. And he realized it and jumped up and looked at me and was like, "I'm so sorry, I really apologize," and turned the song off. I called the record label the next day, and I was very, very, disappointed with the fact that that was being considered for the album, because I felt like that is not the types of messages that we should be putting out in the music right now. The song did not make the album.
I think what makes him a great leader is that he really pays attention to people. I think that's very important when you are selling a magazine to many people in the world, and when you are acknowledging and recognizing different artists, you have to really get into what people want and what people like.
One story that I really, really felt impassioned about was doing a gay hip-hop story.
No one really knew how to kind of go about it and do it in a way that would be sort of not offensive, let's say, to our, non-gay readers, that they would find this interesting, and at the same time that the gay readers would feel like this was representing them.
I was going out to these clubs in New York and DC and Atlanta and Los Angeles and Miami that were hip-hop clubs. All these kids were thugged out with the gold chains and the gold teeth and cornrows, and just, you name any rapper, there was a look-alike there of that person. The fact is, these clubs were gay. The story is a very controversial story about these guys that are into hip-hop and are gay but pose as straight and are not out. And then it also talks about the conflict of loving music that is, degrading and that is self-deprecating and that is homophobic. We got more letters from this story than any other story published in the history of the magazine. Most of them positive, most of them kids from Oklahoma or, down south who were thankful for us for writing the story because it represented them. And then some of the letters were from gay black men who were mad that I outed them, that I outed the culture. I realized that, this is a very hot topic, and obviously we have a lot of gay readers or people who are interested in gay culture. So it was very rewarding.
Emil brings just in his person the tendency to strive for excellence. He has intuitive sense for really what's hot with a particular genre or a particular artist, and also a real finger on the pulse in terms of what's driving the culture.
There's still a lot of stories that haven't been told. There's still a lot of education and cultural awareness that needs to happen.
After 12 years at Vibe magazine, Emil left earlier this year to take over as Vice President of Development at Mark Echo Enterprises.
At this English-speaking conference, I was instructed to sing and speak only in Spanish. The audience was asked to take off the headsets that provided translation. The idea was to show what it was like to live in a world where you didn't understand what was being presented. Helping the National Minority AIDS Council make a point that day made me feel like I was doing something for my community and for my best friend, who will always be with me. Creando conciencia sobre el SIDA. I'm Jade Estrada, and you're watching In the Life.
And finally, four-time Tony Award winner and In the Life regular commentator, Harvey Fierstein.
Oh, jeez. Are we ready? Getting all worked up. Oh, forget it. I don't believe in heaven. In fact, I don't believe in any sort of conscious afterlife. More to the point, I don't believe in God or gods or goddesses, but I pray every day, sometimes more than once a day. And I operate under a complicated belief system pretty much of my own device, which I base on scientific laws and humanistic principles. And all in all, it works for me. I tell you this not to seek converts or to invite any discussion of any specific religion. I just want you to know that my beliefs might seem just as silly to you as yours do to me, and that's cool. We are lucky enough to be living in a country that not only guarantees the freedom to practice religion as we see fit, but also freedom from religious zealots who would persecute and prosecute and even physically harm those of us who do not believe as they do. You say good, kind, God-fearing people don't go around killing non-believers. I quote the immortal words of Monty Python. No one ever expects the Spanish Inquisition. No one ever expects it, but that's usually what they get. Look to the Middle East. Look to Ireland. Look to Brooklyn. More wars have been fought in the name of religion than any other cause. More people have been persecuted, reputations ruined, and fortunes plundered, and murders committed in the name of religion than any other enterprise. And more everyday bigotry and prejudice is founded on what religion a person follows than any other factor. A nun walks into a room, you automatically cut her some slack and give her a modicum of respect. Conversely, a man tells you he thinks God is a bunch of superstitious hooey, and you start looking to the sky for a lightning bolt to appear. Now, the atheist may in fact be a Nobel Prize winner who has spent his life in service of mankind. He may be the noblest being who has ever walked the earth. But if you had to leave your wallet with either this guy who says there is no God, or with the nun who says, "Bless you, my child," with beatific smile, who are you going to trust with your hard-earned cash? That, my friends, is how prejudice works. The world has learned in recent years that just because you're a priest doesn't mean you can't be a child rapist. In fact, the Catholic Church is the only organization on record to dispense money from a slush fund set up solely for the paying off of abused children's families. So always remember, you cannot judge a man by his collar. Anyway, it's supposed to be different in America, but is it? We live in a land where to wince at the phrase, "God bless America," makes you somehow suspect. If you refuse to salute the flag and say God in your pledge, you're actually judged un-American. But that's not the way America is supposed to be. That's the way Iran is. And after 200 billion of our tax dollars, that's the way Iraq is again. Predicating patriotism on a citizen's belief in God is as anti-American as judging him on the color of his skin. It is wrong, it is useless, and it is unconstitutional. So how did we get stuck with a president who does it every day of the week? Forget believing in God. How about thinking for yourself on a subject? In May of this year, an American Catholic archbishop decreed that any parishioner under his jurisdiction who votes for a pro-choice, pro-gay rights, or pro-stem cell research candidate may not take communion. In other words, you go to hell if you don't vote the way the Catholic Church wants you to vote. Are you getting my point yet? Bottom line, I don't care what you believe or what church you attend or how religion-oriented your private life is. Keep it out of my government. Keep it out of my laws. Keep it out of my bedroom, and keep it out of the war rooms at the Pentagon. What you believe and how you worship is a matter between you and your higher power, whatever that means to you. So how about this? You don't tell me I'm going to hell, and I won't tell you the emperor has no clothes. Deal?
I'm Staceyann Chin. For all of us at In the Life, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next month.
In the Life is funded in part by the H. Van Ameringen Foundation. Additional support provided by the Ford Foundation, the Pride Foundation, the Lily Auchincloss Foundation, and the annual support of In the Life members like you.